Alright, the Two of Swords traditionally has either a woman or a man holding two swords, and they're crossed, and she has a blindfold on. Okay. In the background are some rocks in the ocean, and I feel like the rocks represent obstacles. So this person can't see something. So if we move into the energy of the card, and I really like this card, it is the Hanson Roberts Tarot, which I just got this deck. I really like it. I'll do a review on it shortly. So the Two of Swords is all about mental confusion, not knowing which way to go, and not being able to see your way forward. So if we move into the energy of this card and we pretend that we are this woman in the card holding the swords, the first thing that I'm drawn to is the blindfold. What that means is that she can't see something, okay? She is missing information, or she's not able to access it in some way. So there's something that she doesn't know, right? Something that she can't figure out. No matter how much she thinks about it, no matter how much she goes over it in her head, she can't seem to figure it out. She can't see what it is. She's blindfolded. The second thing I notice about this card with the Two of Swords is there's this presumption that there are two ways to go. I can go this way or I can go that way, right? So what I would ask the person in this card is, are there only two directions? Is it only left or right? Is it only black or white? Is it only up or down? Right? Is there a third choice? If there was a third choice, what would it be? Okay? So if I was the person standing in this card, the first thing that I would do would be to drop the swords, which would mean stop thinking there's only two options. Stop thinking you can only do A or B, right? I would drop the swords and I would uncross my arms, because when your arms are crossed, you're not open, okay? So I would uncross my arms and I would be open to additional solutions, right? The third thing I would do is stop facing the direction I was facing and turn around. And I would look at what alternate possibilities are there? What other ways of moving forward have I not seen or looked at? And the other thing I would do is I would take off the blindfold, right? Take off the blindfold, look around, uncross your arms, and drop the swords. Okay? So let's recap. One of the ways that I love learning these cards is to move into them and feel what I feel and notice what I notice. And when I become the character in this card, that's how I just came up with everything that I just told you guys. And it also makes it really easy to remember the card when you've become the character in the card. And I was just realizing how pretty this card looks on the camera. So anyway, there is a moon in this card. In fact, all of the cards have the moon in them. I forgot to mention that earlier. Well, the Robin Wood Tarot doesn't have the moon, but that's okay. Moon is one of the archetype symbols in this card. And the moon to me means your insight is going to come through the emotional body, right? The insight, the breakthrough is going to come through your intuitive or your right brain or your emotions in some way. So this to me would mean getting out of your head and getting more into your body, and then you'll be able to take the blindfold off, you'll be able to look around you, you'll be able to see more options, you'll be able to drop the two swords, meaning you'll be able to stop thinking there's only two choices, and then you'll be able to make a choice because you'll be able to see the additional information. So the additional information that you're missing is emotional in nature. It is not logical. It is not mental energy, which is what the swords represent. Okay? This person is feeling guarded, you know, by the hands being crossed, and this person is feeling defensive and unable to move forward. That's because they're missing information, because they have the blindfold on. If they just take off the blindfold, one of the first things they'd see is the moon, which means one of the first things they'd realize is, oh, right, like I need to tap into my emotions, I need to get more into my body, and then I'll be able to see, because that's where the missing information lies. And continuing to go over it in your head and only thinking that you can do this or that isn't going to solve the problem. Alright, so the Two of Michael, this is going to be with unicorns, and it says, it will all be better if you just make a decision over analyzing a problem, finding a compromise. The Two of Air is going to be being unable or unwilling to make a decision, a stalemate pending, there is no problem. This is the Angel Tarot. The first one was the Archangel Power, and then this one is the Fairy Tarot. And it is Two of Winter. Indecision is holding you back. Make a choice that's best for you rather than trying to please others, feeling emotionally trapped. between the intellectual and the emotional. Okay? So if we're going to move into the Two of Swords reversed, what comes to me is, it feels to me like an overload of mental information. You know way too much about the situation. You know every single bullet point about doing this or doing that. You can list all the pros and cons of going left or going right, or this decision or that decision, and it's just too much. Okay? This person is mentally confused. This person is even more mentally confused. Whereas this person is missing information because they have a blindfold on and they can't see. This person has way too much information, right? It is overanalyzation to like the 10th degree. They know so much now that they can't even move forward. And just as a side note, a lot of times when you know way too much about something and the mental body is way too active, you have moved out of your body and you're not grounded, just as a side note. And moving back into the body and doing movement will clear the mental confusion and clear the overload, if that makes sense, okay? The other thing that I get from this card is complete disregard for the emotional body. I'm thinking of the moon in this card as it's upside down. Just complete disregard for like the emotions in general and what that would mean if you took them into consideration. The other thing that comes to me with this card is because you know so much, you can see all the advantages of the first decision, but you can also see all the advantages of the second decision. So much so that it's almost like you're on both sides, right? Like you're voting for both candidates because you see like all the reasons for both. But what happens is that you're unable to make a decision whatsoever when like you have to choose. Like you've got to pick one or the other and you just like can't seem to do it. Okay, and that also feels to me very much like a Libra thing. All right, let's go to the next card.